Kia Boys to Men. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Hey Cousins, hosted by Peaches from Peace, Love, and Light. Believe in yourself and all that you are. Know that there is something inside you that is greater than any obstacle. If you or someone you know has talked about or contemplated suicide, please call 988 and get help today. Whether you get your news from television, the newspaper, or from social media, it's easy to feel removed, separated, and distant from the crimes that sometimes happen right in our own backyards. Regretfully, I have to admit that I have also learned how to turn a blind eye to some of the crimes being committed in my community until I had the misfortune of witnessing the Kia Boys carjacking someone just a few feet away from my home. In case you're not familiar, the Kia Boys is an unorganized group of individuals, usually teenagers, that break into and steal cars after a video went viral on TikTok exposing how to start certain models of Kia automobiles without a key. Initially, when I saw the rise in carjackings in my neighborhood, I still felt removed from this problem. After all, I don't drive a Kia, and I usually park inside of my garage. After witnessing someone being held at gunpoint right in front of me and around the corner from my house, I realized just how naive I have been. If you were educated in the United States public school system, then it's reasonable to assume that you took at least one citizenships class. Civics teaches us that in a democracy, we are all responsible for ensuring that the rules, laws, and social standards are upheld individually and collectively. In a perfect democracy, I would have called the police to report the crime, and an investigation would lead to the arrest of the assailants. Unfortunately, we do not live in a perfect democracy, and the death of individuals like Sandra Bland, Eric Garner, George Floyd, and a Tatiana Jefferson, just to name a few, is proof that the system set up to protect U.S. citizens often works against individuals that look like myself. When I picked up my phone to call the police, I was immediately consumed with fear and anxiety. I was overwhelmed with thoughts about all of the young black boys that have already lost their lives due to police brutality and misconduct. Would filing a police report lead to one of these individuals being beaten by the police or maybe even a more gruesome fate? The principles and ethics of the eight-limb path of yoga teaches us that in life, everything is not always right or wrong. Sometimes life presents us with challenges and obstacles that force us to walk the middle path, finding the route that will create the least amount of resistance or harm. After giving myself a few minutes to calm down and reflect over what took place, I realized that I did not know the make and model of the vehicle being driven by the assailants. I did not get a good look at their faces, and I barely got a good look at the victim before I threw my car into reverse and sped off in the opposite direction. Paths like these don't always have a right solution. In place of calling the police, I decided to make a call for action. There are too many lives being lost to gun violence in the United States, but especially in Ohio. In fact, according to the Centers for Disease Control, the firearm mortality rate in Ohio is 13.7% compared to the national rate of 12%. With the mortality rate in Ohio being higher than the national average, we have a community crisis that can only be resolved by a community-led coalition. Instead of investing our time in the methods of phone calls and complaints to city leaders and officials, we should spend our time uplifting one another and empowering each other to succeed. To all of the young boys soon to become men that are listening to this podcast today, I want you to know your talents and skills can take you so much further than a jail cell or a grave. Poverty is not always a choice, but violence and criminal behavior is. Having money does not make you rich, and a lack of financial stability doesn't make you poor. Instead of stealing and taking from your neighbors in your community, think about all of the talents and skills that you have to give. Surrender yourself to the idea of exchanging your talents and skills to receive abundance. And before you take a life, think about everything that you have to lose. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Hey Cousins, hosted by Peaches from Peace, Love, and Light. This show is sponsored by Sean Lee Jones and the Creative Healing Foundation. Make sure that you subscribe to this podcast to stay up to date with the latest and exclusive content. And if you would like to continue the conversation, leave your thoughts, questions, and concerns in the comment section.